And so, when consciousness turns inward, when attention turns inward, the being naturally perceives itself. We could say that when the mind turns inward, when it tries to find its source, that it merges with where it has arisen from and experiences its naturalness. It experiences what it truly is, pure conscious awareness. Just being, just simply being. Just simply being here. Wanting nothing, needing nothing. Letting go of absolutely everything and just being here. Watching the mind that might be evaluating or analyzing this moment. Noticing that internal chatter that is incessant. And just recognizing, where are you noticing from? Where you are noticing from is the natural being. The natural being is naturally aware. Aware of everything that is moving and changing. And aware of itself just being. There's such utter simplicity to just being. The mind cannot find it because it is shrouded with all of its concepts of what it is looking for. And it doesn't find what it is looking for because it doesn't actually know what it is looking for. So there's the conundrum for the mind. Never satiated, addicted to seeking, addicted to the quest, addicted, innocently addicted to being trapped by itself, by its own story, by its own imaginings. So we could say that the most important thing is to awaken first to honesty. Awaken first to a depth of honesty. Cannot even imagine how honest we'd really truly need to be in order to see through all of the distortions and conditionings of the ego sense. There are many. And the truth is that it is these distortions that will keep the attention wandering away from what is true. There is great beauty in experiencing the being and knowing the truth of who you are, knowing the true nature. But it can only be truly lived when everything on the surface that can create a distraction refines into the being. If there is anything left, it will distract. Of that you can be sure. If there is a single thread for the ego sense to follow, it will follow it. So we could say that what the ego wants, what the mind wants, is to have the highest attainment. But it's such nonsense, such utter nonsense for the mind to think that it knows anything about this. Because we could say that which is the highest attainment, is being completely empty of all of that nonsense. It's being completely empty of everything. It's being completely stripped of all conditioning, all wants, all desires. It is such a quality of humility that cannot be imagined. That is why the true quest is the quest that carries you inward into the being, resting in the true nature. And the true quest is the process of refinement of absolutely everything. Everything that can pull the attention into distraction, into delusion, into believing its own distortions. It is so intricate how deep the delusion is. Let us say that being, true being, is true spirituality. Just being, simple being. It is to let go of all of the concepts and ideas, all of the ideas of states and all of the beliefs and languaging that can be so compelling for the mind that wants to achieve and attain, and the mind that wants to be special. It's so important to let go of everything and be carried by the being, by consciousness itself, into its own depths of consciousness, where there is nothing for the mind, because the mind is dissolved into the vast landscape of conscious being. The mind dissolves into the heart. The noise, the chatter, dissolves into the silence. And you are living only in the cathedral of total divine equanimity. So, the one that wants to be addicted, let it be addicted to stillness. Let it be addicted to equanimity. Let it be addicted to never leaving itself. Let that pull that want only devotion that is pure. Let that wanting want only the truth. Let that wanting want only the utmost honesty. Holding never a single position, surrendering absolutely everything that is seen and realized, recognized again and again and again, again and again and again, into the unfathomable silence of being. To identify only with the simplicity of being here now. To identify only with the purity of being. So this quality of honesty is such a profound possibility that is absolutely required if we are to see fully through the delusion. If there is any subtle threads that want to defend or protect, to hold a position at any point in this unfolding, the delusion will reign, and reality will seem elusive, but reality is right here. But reality is being the being. Reality is being yourself. So either the attention is turned inward, turned to the being, resting. And this resting, it's so subtle. It's so subtle that you cannot try to grasp it. You cannot rest in the being and then grasp the being. And you also do not want to allow the attention to wander. So the place of resting is like this teeter-totter of subtlety, where you're not trying, you're not striving, you're not grasping, and you're also not wandering away because you're not resting, right? Because if you're not resting, the attention drifts off, follows those threads of the mind, of thinking. But the resting place is freedom. The resting place is so spacious. There's no contraction. The resting place is utter openness. The resting place, it's so incredibly subtle. But this is really what we are opening to, is more and more subtlety of being. We're opening to the subtler and subtler realms of being. Do not ever think that you have arrived anywhere. And if you have a sense of having arrived, jump off. Jump straight off that ledge. Free fall into the embrace of grace, into the arms of not knowing, into the vastness of the infinite eternal field of just being. So this is where it takes honesty, where you can constantly see, oh, look at what I'm telling myself about what I've achieved, what I've realized, where I'm sitting. Look at what I'm telling myself, right? It's this that is so important. It's also important to have that honesty to recognize, what story are you telling yourself in any given moment? What is that story? Whether it's a story of superiority or a story of inferiority, be so aware and honest. What is the story you are telling yourself? Because if that mind is chattering, you're not resting in being. In the cathedral of silence you are. Divine equanimity, openness, clarity, shining light of freedom that is the true nature is right here. It's not a how-to. It's not follow these steps and you'll get there. Every word that comes forward is tumbling from the source into expression, offering a pointing, and then collapsing back in to the silence. If it collects pieces of itself on the way, then there is jubilant celebration. But it doesn't want anything. It has no expectation. It's an open, allowing, accepting being. It is constantly offering itself to itself, constantly offering itself to itself in utter simplicity, in utter devotion, and as a flow of unconditional love, a love that just loves itself so profoundly, will do anything for itself. That is the truth. You are that love. You are that freedom. You are that love that will do anything for itself. This is that love that will do anything for itself, to bring itself to divine remembering of its very own nature all the way through, right to the surface of life. So it bubbles up from the wellspring of silence, seems to appear on the surface of life. But what really appears is nothing. It's the silent transmission. And it is just here to invite an alignment with this truth. So this is why it is only ever about feeling the resonance of where these words are coming from, what these words are carrying, and where they are carrying you to. It is exactly the same as following a thought and allowing that thought to find its source. It will bring you to the presence of being, where there is no finding, but there is being yourself. And every moment that you find yourself being yourself, the mind will say, no, 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 nothing here. I've looked all around and awakening is not here. It will scan the landscape for everything that it thinks it's looking for, and it will conclude, there is nothing of any use here for me, so therefore I will get back to my thinking. I will keep myself busy thinking. So sweet. Such compassion for mind. But all mind wants is to know what it belongs to. All mind wants is to know its God nature. It wants to merge with itself. It wants to merge into its truth, the divine remembering, the truth that is the one truth. So these words are only ever carrying a resonance, and it is just about feeling the resonance. Sometimes there will be a recognition in the words, but it is really just the resonance that is being received. And as the resonance is received, it is to feel the yes, feel the resonance, the alignment, the attunement with a quality of recognition. The quality of recognition leads you to your own heart. You are recognizing your own heart. You are recognizing the being that you are. You are recognizing yourself. And the deeper that this recognition lands, we could say then the easier it is to rest in the being yourself, and have the ability to watch everything that is coming and going, to be aware in your true nature of everything that is coming and going. And you also start to tap into a deep and profound quality of your own purity. When you touch into your own purity, you are touching into truth. And then this truth, this quality of your own purity, rises to the surface as humility and honesty. And it's this honesty that we are shining the light on right here. Because it takes honesty, a depth of honesty, to tell the truth about who you are and to tell the truth about this moment so fully, where you are willing to see the stories that you tell yourself, see your own delusions, see every distortion in your consciousness in order to shine the light upon it. It's not about creating more stories and allowing shame or guilt to come forward. These are just qualities of ego. They are not humble in any way, even though the ego might think they are. True humility is the willingness to see all stories, to see what story are you telling yourself in this moment. Be so open in this moment, so present here now, that there is a willingness to be so honest. That honesty is an emanation of the depth that you are living. The deeper that you are resting in being, the more honest you will be. So this is why refinement is so important. It's not about wanting to go deeper and trying to use techniques to go deeper. It's about being so honest and allowing this refining to happen by being so honest about what is keeping you from living this truth. Being so honest. Because in that honesty, the light shines upon the delusion, the light shines upon the discordant, the conditioning. And it allows the freeing of those patterns of consciousness that are keeping you bound, or keeping you, we could say, coming back and back to the surface of life and repeating again and again and again the same stories, right? So we wonder, why is this happening again? What happened to my awakening? What happened to my gorgeous spiritual life? Why is this repeating? But everything will keep repeating until it has the possibility of completing itself. And completing itself is the refinement, right? So the mind wants the awakeness. The mind wants the deepening. The mind wants what it perceives as the glory. And it doesn't want the challenges. But the challenges are just reflections of your own consciousness. And if the consciousness is not resting in itself, if consciousness is not turned inward to just be perceiving its own natural being, its own naturalness, its own wholeness, then it will be perceiving something as external. And whatever it's perceiving as external is only happening to point it inwards, right? So it's just giving itself a little nudge. It's supporting itself. It's helping itself to turn inwards. But the habit that has been learned has been to engage with the surface of life and the meanderings of the mind as if they are real, and to engage in that inner chatter. That inner chatter. Have you noticed how that inner chatter is always finding how you are right? It's always trying to validate itself. So let's be honest. Let's be honest. Because without honesty, we cannot reveal the craziness of that inner chatter. We cannot reveal the utter drivel, the utter nonsense that mind is chatting about. So, honesty is the connection to your own purity, the humility to shine the light upon all of the ways that you deceive yourself, all of the ways that we deceive ourselves, okay? It takes utter vigilance. And what it takes is a deep enough taste of the being, a deep enough taste of the being that you can perceive what is true and perceive the subtlety of your own nature. And that is so alive, and the recognition of its truth feels so clear that this is what you are pointed to. So you can notice that the deeper that you fall into the being, the more compelling it is to want to go deeper into the being. So the deepening into the being is through being with the being the being. The self has to be with itself. You cannot find the answer in books. You cannot find the answer outside of yourself. You cannot find the answer in techniques. It's to see, how are you playing in the world of delusion, deluding yourself more within the dream with ideas of how you might go deeper, when all that is required to go deeper is to be still, be with yourself, be with the being, and be so radically honest as you watch the unfolding of the play of the world, and you watch the chatter of the mind about the play of the world. It is to give up all notions of what it is dreamed that you are longing for, what is wanted in this unfolding, and to receive what you are being given. What you are being given is what you truly want. What you truly want is what you are being given. So, if what you truly want is God, then you will see everything as God, and you will receive it as God, as the flow of grace. If what you want is a new sports car, for example, then you are playing in the delusion. If what you want is something on the surface, if what you want is a really lovely relationship on the surface, okay? If what you want is a new job, then you're in the delusion and you're in the wanting of the ego. So what you will be given is more fuel for the ego. You won't necessarily be given that great relationship or the new job that you want, because that isn't what you really want. Underneath it all, what you really, really want, what you really, really, really want is to know yourself, is to be free, is to know God, even if that is not known. But let's be honest, everyone here does really know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You would be doing something else on a Tuesday evening. So, but let's be honest. While we're being honest, let's be honest. Sometimes the mind wants other things. Yeah. So, you are always being given what you truly want. Sometimes, if you are playing in distraction, if you are lost, you can want, and you can want things of the material world. You can want. What you will get is what leads you to clearer seeing. What you will get are situations that reflect the state of your consciousness in order to push you to ask deeper questions. If you know that what you want is to fall deeper and deeper into the embrace of the divine, to know yourself all the way through, then you will see that everything that is arising is the grace of God that is flowing in order to carry you deeper into exactly what is longed for. This is the natural flow of being into itself. But along the way, there is going to be the need to refine, all of the conditioned habits, all of the distortions of consciousness that can keep the sense of me habituated and alive. We are being given everything in order to dissolve fully into the being. It is this honesty that allows us to see the depth of delusion. And that, we could say, that possibility of honesty getting purer and purer and purer, it rises up depending on the depth that you are living. So let's say the source, the divine source, the purity, the honesty, the clarity is so extraordinary. It's unconditioned. There's nowhere to hide. Can you feel that? Can you feel the purity of the source, where there are no distortions, where there is such a clarity, there is radiant brilliance. There are no protections, there are no defenses. Can you feel the honesty that emanates from the divine? The deeper you are living, the more that purity, that immaculate nature, that wholeness, that unconditioned nature emanates to the surface. So where there is delusion, where there is hiding and suppressing, it is because there are distortions, because there is debris. There are debris in certain areas. And it's okay. It just means that these areas are a work in progress. These areas where there are debris, usually in the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body, where there is debris, where there are distortions, what you can be sure of, that God is good and God is kind. The divine is totally supporting itself. Remember, love loves itself so deeply, it will do anything for itself. So it will create exactly the right, perfect orchestration as a reflection for you to get a slap in the face so that you can see the debris, so that you can see where there is not clarity. Not so you can create more stories about it, but so that you can actually clear that. You can shine the light. You can purify and transform that into the divine remembering. So it weaves in these parts of you. They weave in. They refine into the being. And as they refine into the being, there's more clarity, more of your shining nature bubbles to the surface and moves through the form. The emanation shining its dazzling clarity on the surface of life. Right? You already know your wholeness, and the greatest longing is to live that wholeness. You already know the love that you are, and the great longing is to live that love that you are. It's to love and be loved, not on the surface of life, but as the living flow of unconditional love that is the true nature. You already know the freedom that you are, that is without bounds, that is limitless, infinite. You already know the peace that you are, that is undisturbable. And you long for that. You already know the delight and joy that you are, the happiness that you are. And there is a longing for that happiness that is causeless and cannot be taken. You already know who you are. And the longing of the heart is to live that fully. And you are being given everything in the flow of life in order to live that fully. But you cannot stagnate in ideas of a life that is comfortable. There has to be a willingness to have an honesty about every single area of your life. An unexamined life will be a stagnant life, right? Doesn't matter how much your mind can say that I'm on this path and I'm doing the work. You have to be willing to shine the light into every single nook and cranny and crevice and dark corner of the closet. You have to be so willing to shine the light of your pure whole being into every single area of your life, of your mind, of your inner conversation. Perhaps you can feel what is being pointed to, because there is such profundity in the depth of honesty that is possible. And let's be honest, the longing for truth is a longing for a quality of honesty where you are revealed, where nothing is hiding, where you are transparent because you are clear. You are the clarity of being, the immaculate pure one. And your transparency is an emanation of your clarity, of your clear seeing. And this is what is longed for. We do not long to hide and be contracted and protected. We long for the cork to pop out, because the power of the effulgence of your gorgeousness cannot be contained any longer, that your magnificence pops the cork of your protection. And here you are in all your glory. And yes, it can be messy. It can be messy at times. But who cares? There's the inquiry. Who? Who cares? Who? Who is defending? Who is protecting? Who is that one? Can you have the courage and honesty to reveal that one and allow that one, that fiber of yourself, to be woven in to the divine fabric of remembering your divinity, of remembering reality and truly living it? Can you feel how deeply this is your longing? Can you feel how deeply this that is being spoken is already the truth of who you are? Can you feel that these words are your own voice speaking the truth that you want to hear, in order to bring forward that honesty, in order to bring forward the courage and humility to live this truth, to tell the truth about who you are, to tell the truth about your divine nature, to tell the truth about the simplicity and the rawness of being yourself, to tell the truth that it's so ordinary, there's nothing special here, that God is the most unspecial of all. Can you see the story that the mind can tell itself about specialness and ascending to be with God, to be with the divine? Can you see the delusion in that? That God is humility. God is the most unspecial. God is more ordinary than can ever be imagined, because God is all. God is not a character that is perfected. God is the knowing of the perfection of what is. God is the knowing of the perfection of what is. That everything is God. God is not a character. God is not a caricature. God is not a personality. God is the truth. God is utter purity, utter honesty, the unconditioned, and it is everything, everything. It is the reality. It is the reality. So we have to see through the concepts that we hold, that keep us in a story of unworthiness, keep us separate from God, when all that is happening here is that God is trying to get hold of you, give you a good shake, and tell you what God actually is. God is ordinary. The divine is ordinary. Mother is. That's all. Shining, shining, shining. Shining, 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 as only light can shine. But not worldly light. It is a light, we could say, the closest possibility we can have of understanding the light is to question. You look at the sun and you see its brilliance. You see how blindingly bright it is. What is illuminating the sun? By virtue of what light do we know of the sun's existence? Inquiry. You see how it brings you to a stop where you do not know the answer, and yet you can feel something so profound. By virtue of what light do we know of the sun's existence? You know of the sun's existence, so you know that light. It is not someone. It is the light of pure awareness, the divine light that shines in and of itself just because it is. So as these words come, it is just to feel the resonance. Feel the resonance of truth. Align with the truth as you find it here now, and find that this truth here now is a felt sense of being here. It is a felt sense of your own presence that is so simple and pure. As these words come, they act as a cleansing. They act as a purifier. They act as a healing. They act as an energetic flow of consciousness that transforms. As the words come, they are pointing to what is happening right now in the field. And as the pointing comes, what is happening in the field is illuminated. And in that illumination, the light of awareness is shining upon distortions, and they are falling away. They are dissolving, and you will feel more honesty rising up. You will feel more humility. You will feel so humbled by your own being. You will feel the power of truth resonating. You will feel a quality of divine, of God, the immaculate wholeness that you are. You already know this, and everything that is being pointed to is pointing to what you already are, and is pointing, we could say in moments, to what you are not, in order that the light can shine upon what you are. We could say you only know what you are by virtue of being it, being the being. The knowing of being is not a knowing that grabs onto something. So you only know it, we could say, by recognizing what you are not. You are not the mind because you are aware of the mind. You are not the thoughts, you are aware of the thoughts. You are not the body, you are aware of the body. You are not your story, you are aware of your story. You are nothing that you can perceive. You are not your name because you are aware of the name. You are not the environment, you are not the role, you are not the drama, because all of this you are aware of. Feel the aware being that you are, aware of the mind, aware of the body, but not defined by anything that you are aware of. So we eliminate what you are not to discover what you are. What you are is that which remains when nothing else can be eliminated from the moment. And then the honesty to tell the truth, But it's not someone telling the truth. It is the inner whisper. It is the inner whisper. It is connecting to your own purity, your own wholeness, and letting the silent whisper, the innermost being whisper the truth to itself. This is recognition. This is recognition. It is openness, vastness. It is divine equanimity, stillness, silence, being, simple, ordinary. Where the mind dissolves into its source. Stillness, silence, just being. In a nanosecond, the mind will come in and start again. Have you noticed that? Rest here and watch. Rest here and watch. Do not be pulled away from yourself. Rest in this equanimity, in the stillness. The more there is a resting here, you fall into deeper and deeper qualities of absorption. Resting here and watch. You fall into absorption, and absorption is an absorption into the natural being that is the true nature. Where consciousness is turned inward, it knows its natural beingness, it knows its naturalness, its true nature. If it is not pulled inwards and the attention turns outwards, it will be receiving a reflection, an experience. It is not to turn away from experience, but to be the being watching and receiving all experience. Receiving experience is receiving the grace the divine is offering, that the divine is orchestrating out of your consciousness to carry you deeper. So do not leave yourself. Rest here and watch. Rest here in the stillness, just being. And then the honesty, the mind comes in, watch it, and allow the honest, pure light to shine upon. Reveal the delusions as they come in. Reveal the positions, the stories. Reveal the habits and conditionings as they come in. Rest here and shine the light. Shine the light. As you shine the light, just resting will unravel the distortions, will unravel the habit to move towards that which wants to distract. Just resting, just resting. Not grasping the being. If there's any efforting or grasping, you're back in the mind, you're back in the wanting. It's subtle. It's falling into the subtlety And as you fall into the subtlety, you fall into the subtle realms. As you fall into the subtle realms, there's more awareness that comes forward, because this is what this is all about. We are moving from the habits and conditioning. We are moving from being a mechanistic process to being awareness. And as you recognize the awareness that you are, more awareness comes forward. Awareness starts shining everywhere because it's who you are. So you become more aware of the subtleties of your life. You become more aware of the subtleties of your thoughts, the subtleties of your behaviors, the subtleties of everything about you. So yes, it's true. You are not separate. You are not an individual in the way the mind thinks that you are. But there is a unique set of laws of nature. And it is to be aware of the subtleties in order to shine the light upon them. And this is where it takes the radical honesty. Everything is conspiring to bring more awareness. As you open more honesty comes forward, more humility. The humility is the willingness to be still and not follow the habits, to let go of your story, to let go of being the one who knows. The honesty to tell the truth about who you are, about being the being, and the honesty to reveal the stories that you tell. The honesty to see the habits. It's like letting the fresh air blow through the moment, where the openness is so fresh and free. It's all about revealing everything. And the deeper that you fall into this, all that is wanted is to refine and refine. There's a letting go of all those aspirations to climb the ladder, to be with God. And you fall on your knees and find that you are with God in every moment. And then all that is wanted is to refine and refine in order to humble away everything that could keep you from the deepest knowing and the clearest seeing of reality, living the divine life. Falling into yourself, resting as the stillness, the simplicity of being. Your nature is openness, equanimity. And there is a blissful quality to this, the happiness, the joy, the simplicity. And the blissful quality is, it's a contentment. You could call it peace. And the deeper there is a resting absorbed in this, there is a nectar, there is a delicious nectar of this blissful equanimity that is the divine nature. That as you rest absorbed, you can drink it in. And it is this absorption and this drinking in of the divine nectar, of your own absorption in the being that carries you deeper. This is how the deepening happens. It does not happen through any ideas that the mind may have. Once you make contact with your divine nature, there is a knowing. Once you know the being, you are at the feet of the Divine Mother. You are at the feet of the Satguru. And when you are at the feet of the Satguru, you are at the feet of life. You recognize that you are at the feet of your very own self. That we could use these words interchangeably. God, self, Guru, grace, Divine Mother, divinity. When you recognize the being, you are at the feet of what you are longing for. Recognition is here, and it is your knowing and your resting absorbed in your knowing of being that allows a deepening and the humility, the courage, the honesty, the simplicity that it requires to refine and refine and refine through receiving life, receiving everything as a flow of grace that is always carrying itself deeper into itself. Every story has a silver lining. Not in the way the mind thinks. The silver lining to every story is that every story is a flow of grace that is carrying you into the heart of the divine. That is the silver lining. It's not trying to find, what about this is good for me? What about this makes me feel good? The silver lining is that every story, however complex, however challenging, however painful it may seem, everything is an opportunity. Everything is a divine possibility that is being created out of your own consciousness to carry you into the immaculate purity of your very own self. Mm. 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 Resting, absorbed, drinking in the nectar of your knowing, just being the being, knowing yourself, reveling in the preciousness of knowing, pure knowing, clear knowing. And just watching what moves and changes. It's your own unique, divine projection out of your mind, out of your consciousness, just for you, a unique view in order to reflect back to you the blind spots, to reflect back to you the parts that have been hidden and suppressed that cannot be seen. And of course, sometimes reflecting back to you the glory more and more this will come forward. The reflection will be just the glory. Reflection is the glory when you are resting, absorbed. The attention wanders, then there will be a quality of experience happening. If experience is happening, it is just to receive. What is it showing you? And this radical honesty to see so clearly. And if you cannot see, just to watch and receive until clarity dawns. It's not happening to you. It's being created out of you, for your freedom. That is the grace. That is the grace of God, the grace of the divine, grace of truth. It is the glory, the glory, the glory. Mm. 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 So just resting, absorbed in the preciousness of just being, knowing, the true knowing, being the being, and the aliveness of knowing, in the naturalness, the wholeness that you are. Mm.